Thank you very much, and welcome to everybody. I see there's quite a good turnout today. Let me quickly introduce myself so that you know who's talking to you. My name is Herman Strauss. I work part-time for the PRB, Plumbing Industry Registration Board. I'm also involved with the SA Watermark that I'm going to show you, or that I'm going to introduce to you today. Can explain to you. So my background, I've been working for the South African Bureau of Standards for a number of years. I've been in private industry, working on product compliance and product development, and obviously the plumbing industry is a very big part of that. But that's enough about me. That you don't need to know. What you do want to know about is the SA Watermark, which is the brilliant new thing in the plumbing industry. But let's get straight to it. What is it? Where does it come from? I mean, a good question. Have you heard about it before? I just need to get my computer going here. If you just bear with me for a minute, I'm going to just quickly restart it. And now it's working. Okay, great. So the SA Watermark. I have to start with a simple introduction. Where does this come from? Was this somebody that came up with a bright idea and thought, let me try to sell yet another thing to the plumbing industry to make their life more confusing, or not? Now, it is quite the contrary. This is a gift for the plumbing industry by the plumbing industry. It was asked, or let me explain to you what actually happened. But it's important to note that this was born exactly out of requests from plumbers, from plumbing manufacturers, out of comments driven by them. So a few years back, the various industry players and plumbers went to IOPSA and said, please, the situation is unbearable. We know that products need to comply. We know that when plumbers do installation, the PRB auditors come and do the audit. One of the things they give the plumber a hard time about is, well, is the products, does it comply with the national standards? A common phrase is it SABS compliant? And things change the reality is that things change in the industry. But we'll touch on that just now. So when the industry came to IOPSA started the process where they engaged, where they basically facilitated the process. They arranged various industry organizations, various members to get together to go through a process to analyze what is the legal requirements, what is needed, what does the plumbing industry really require, what will make a difference, what will make a positive difference, and then work with the various scenarios. Now, as you can imagine, something like that doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of resources that were put into the process, a lot of time spent backwards and forwards. That all ended up in a business model that were developed, which the industry then funded, so that the SA Watermark can be established. But that's sort of the background. Now, I haven't told you anything about the watermark yet. But before we get there, let's just discuss why was it necessary to start the whole process in the first place? Why was it necessary for the industry? Why did they have challenges? So there are. I'm pretty sure it's not new to you. Everybody knows that the legislation in the country says that all products used in a plumbing installation must comply to the national standards. So if there's a standard for a tap, You may only install taps that comply with the standard, and so on. However, there were never legislation or never any requirement that says that the product must be tested by the SABS. Remember, there's a difference between SABS, the South African Bureau of Standards, and SANS, South African National Standards. The national standard is a book. That is the standard, the document that you can buy. That belongs to the country. The SABS is an organization. It's a government organization who is responsible for writing the standards, making sure that it gets written. And they have a subdivision, a commercial business that offer testing and certification services. So the legislation for many years have said that all plumbing products must comply to the SANS standards. But it has never been a requirement that SABS must test it. The legislation says that whoever supplies the product must have evidence. They must be able to show proof that the product complies. Okay, so understand it correct. We're not anti-SABS, not at all. I mean, we support the South African Bureau of Standards, and the product that carries the South African Bureau of Standards mark of approval is definitely, it is one way to prove that the product complies. But the law doesn't say that that's the only way. There are other ways that people can prove compliance as well. Just a quick note, remember that under the Consumer Protection Act, everybody is liable. So what I'm saying there is, as a plumber, you cannot say, well, I bought this from the retailer and he said it's fine. He said the product complies. That is, under the law, it's not good enough. You have to have evidence to prove that the product complies. If a retailer sells you a tap or a pipe that doesn't comply, you install it, there's trouble, the homeowner sues you, you will have to pay for it. You might have a fight with the retailer to get him to help you to pay, but that's a different story. So the important point there, plumbers cannot ignore this and say, well, it's not important to me. We're all liable across the board. So now the challenge comes. We know that products need to comply. So we understand the principle. We know it needs to be SANS compliance. But if there's more than SABS approvals, how do you know that? How do you prove compliance? I mean, the environment changed, and that is one of the big reasons why this whole thing had to be started, because the environment changed, because there were changes that the SABS implemented in the way that they operate, in the way that they tested. It is a fact that a lot of companies lost their SABS certification, for instance. They're no longer SABS compliant, and many of these companies claim that it is not their own doing, that it is for administrative reasons. And that is basically why IOPSA put this whole thing together. So now we know that you can use different ways of proving compliance. As you can see, there are different examples, and these are the examples on the screen at the moment. Is not all of the examples, it's just some of the companies locally that can provide testing or certification services that can prove that the product complies. It can give you either a test report or a mark on the product. It makes it difficult, however, for the consumer and the plumber to, well, anybody to really distinguish between them. We're familiar with the SABS, so if that mark is on there, it's fine. But what about that green one, IAPMO? What about the one in the corner, that black diamond? It almost looks like a cone. That is from the UK, the kite mark. I mean, how do you know whether that actually is acceptable or not? How do you know whether the product actually complies to the national standard? I mean, you can't accept any one of those marks and then the product complies to some international standard, because that's simply not what our law requires. So what the SA Watermark does is it allows any manufacturer who want to sell a product to bring his evidence of compliance. He can come to the SA Watermark and submit that evidence to the SA Watermark. So the people at the SA Watermark will evaluate that. We have the expertise to really look into the test reports, evaluate it, and confirm that test report, that mark, truly proves that the product does comply to the national standard, to the South African standard. Which means there will be a single register of products that complies to the national standards, no matter what type of marking they're using. So this register will then be made available to anybody, to everybody. The whole idea is that the homeowner, the plumber, doesn't have to, or the burden of having to evaluate all the documents is taken away. If you want to, by all means, you can still do that, but you can just rely on the SA Watermark to verify whether a product is on the list of compliant products of the SA Watermark, and that will be more than enough evidence for you to be able to install a product. Remember, this thing is supported by IOPSA, it is supported by the PIRB. So if you install a component that carries a SA Watermark or that is on the SA Watermark register, then the PIRB auditors will never fail that product. They will regard that as compliant as well. Now, to make it as easy and as practical as possible, the SA Watermark will come with a telephone app. It will be available through the internet. Any internet search you want to do, you'll be able to get into the database, verify if products comply. But there's also the app. The app will allow you to walk into any outlet, scan the barcode of the component in front of you, and the app will immediately tell you if this product is listed on the watermark. It will also, depending on what the manufacturer wants to make available, it can give you additional information on that product. It can give you a copy of the certificate. The installation manuals can be made available, warranty details, any other information that the manufacturer wants to make available will be available directly through the app. And the app will be free to download. We'll encourage everybody to use it. There will be no charges for that. So, in summary, the SA Watermark is simply a register of plumbing components that complies with national standards. And that means that any product listed on the SA Watermark is legal to be installed in South Africa. That's basically as simple as it is. It is also worth noting that the SA Watermark, just excuse me. Sorry, just had to clear my throat there, almost coughing your ears. Okay, so the SA Watermark is a voluntary process, and I think this is also important to understand that the SA Watermark is not a new rule or new law that's being implemented. It's a tool that you can choose to use if you want to. I mean, logically, why won't you? Because it's easy to use, and there's no penalties. But it remains a voluntary system. Manufacturers that want to be part of the SA Watermark can apply to list their products there. Manufacturers that don't want to list don't have to do that. So we can't go out and say, well, it's a legal requirement, you must be on the SA Watermark. That's not the case. You can still rely on any of the other methods. We don't change the legislation. It doesn't change the environment at all. But the SA Watermark will be a convenient way. Just for interest sake, remember that products that comply, that carry the SABS mark, for instance, can also be watermarked. It's not the either or. It includes everything. It includes that Some of you are familiar with ANO that does certification and so on now, SATAS, all of those, they can continue with their certification and also be included on the SA Watermark, but it's also possible for them to be on the SA Watermark only. And now I'm trying to get to the next slide again. So another bit that's fairly important to understand is that this is all driven by a non-profit organization. So the SA Watermark is not a money-making scheme. It's not just another company that want to make money out of this. It's a non-profit organization, which basically means there's legal requirements that says nobody gets profit out of this. It's set up in such a way that it just basically covers the cost, the minimum cost that is required in order to make sure that the service can continue and that the register can be maintained. So there is a company being registered. The name of the company is the SA, South African Independent Auditing Services. That is the name of the non-profit organization. This non-profit organization that was established through the process of that were driven by IOPSA and so on. So this organization then registered the brand name SA Watermark. So SA Watermark is a brand name, it's a trademark used, but this is administered by the SA Independent Auditing Services. And just a quick run, I'm going to skip over this fairly quickly. I see we're coming close to the 20 minutes mark. So how can companies come onto the SA Watermark register? For any product to be listed, there has to be a test report or certification. So the difference between a test report and certification, test report is something that happens once off. Product that puts in front of you, in front of the test laboratory, they do a set of tests and they say, this product in front of me performed in whichever way. Where certification is an ongoing process. For certification, there are ongoing tests at the factory, ongoing audits to make sure that the product is continuously manufactured in the correct way. So we make sure that all test reports and certification are accredited, but we respect the international accreditation system. If you're interested to have more idea, I'm not going to spend time on this today. Have a look at the website, www.ilac.org. South Africa is a partner to the ILAC agreement, which is the International Laboratory Cooperation Agreement. And basically what this agreement says is, if tests were done in India or UK or wherever, and the tests were accredited through ILAC in that country, it has to be accepted in South Africa as well. So we respect that. In South Africa, the organization that administers that is SANAS. So in South Africa, if you see a SANAS accredited test report, that we expect, but it could be a UCAS accredited for UK and so on and so on and so on. I'm going to quickly skip over that ad because that doesn't, we're running out of time. I think one important thing to notice is that within the SA Watermark, there will be a rating system. So whenever you see a product, you will see a star rating. Now, again, without spending too much detail and too much time explaining the different star levels, what the star levels mean is it gives an indication of the ongoing conformance. So on the one extreme, a 1 star means a product has at least been tested once. The design has been verified. That allows a company, especially smaller companies, to come online to get a watermark or get on the list at the minimum level. On the furthest right-hand side for the 4 stars, it means there are lots of processes happening. The factory gets audited on a regular basis. There are samples drawn from the market at random, tested to verify that they keep complying, that they do comply. So that is, in short, the different or the meaning of the different star ratings, and then there's a meaning attributed to 1, 2, 3, and 4 stars. And I encourage you to go onto the website. I'll give the website address just now. Have a look there, read and see what exactly the meaning is of all the different stars. Interesting to note that a 1 and a 2 star rating for any company that lists, they will have to reapply every 2 years because of the associated risks. And the 3 and the 4 stars are, well, perpetual. And
apologies,
again,
Meneer.
Out of time, I'm going to skip this ad. Slide. Let me.
I think, Meneer, I think because we've got a couple questions. I think let's leave it there, and then we'll come back in a second session, and we can take this further on because we have got quite a few questions.
Okay, I want to show one slide. We don't have to come back. That slide just showed some of the supporters. And the next slide is just the contact details, which is important. I think any questions, you're welcome to mail to info@SA Watermark, but please go and visit the website, www.sawatermark.co.za, because it's all explained there. Yes, you can fire away with the questions.
All right, perfect. The first question we've got here is, if the supplier gives a guarantee of 5 or 10 years on the product, do you still need the watermark?
Yes. Okay, first of all, remember the watermark is not a requirement, it's an option. You can do that or not. But remember, a guarantee doesn't change anything. I can build a product that does not comply and still give a guarantee on that. It just means that the manufacturer will support it for a very long time. It does not confirm that it actually complies.
All right, perfect. The next question reads, when will the app be available?
Good question. Soon, very soon. We are at the moment, the app has been developed. You can actually, if you search, there's a YouTube video showing the app, how it works. We anticipate within the next month, the app should be available. The developers are busy finalizing that whole process.
All right. The next question reads, when did this come into being? Is there a date where it started? Can we download the app today? Okay, I apologize. That's part of the last question.
It's fine. I can tell you, just quickly say what's happening at the moment. The watermark was first launched to the manufacturers. At the moment, we're busy listing a lot of manufacturers that subscribed, and we're loading their products on the database. That does take quite a while, and that's one of the reasons why the app isn't available yet. We need to get the product on the database so that the app can be made available.
All right, perfect. The next question reads, what is the frequency of the audits to maintain a 4-star rating?
Annually, once a year at least. However, there's also in the contracts, we are allowed to do it more frequently. So if we pick up anything that doesn't spell right, we can do it more regularly than that.
All right, the next question reads, when will municipalities be advised of this?
A lot of the municipalities have been advised of this already. We are busy in a process where we talk to various stakeholders, not only the municipalities, to make them more aware of this. I mean, Jaswick has been contributing to the development of this process as well. So they are aware.
All right, perfect. No, apologize. It seems that most of the questions were repeats, so we have run out of questions. Meneer, is there anything you would like to just touch on again in the last 5 minutes?
Actually, now I've skipped over this quite fast. I think one of the things out of the questions as well is, yes, this is new. It's really brand new. This was only launched in March. In March, it actually, the system went live. So you can imagine there's a lot of plumbing products out there. There's a lot of companies, listing, getting all the documentation and everything ready for this is not something that happens overnight. So what we anticipate is that the list, there will be a fair number of products on the list initially, and from there onwards, it will keep growing and get more and more practical going forward.
Right, perfect. Well then, thank you very much for taking the time out to present this morning, Meneer. It does look like we are done, although we have just got another question here. Okay, I'm going to read this to you, Meneer. If it isn't a question meant for you, we can get one of the other professionals to answer it. The question reads, a few years back, I purchased a polycop pipe from our house main water supply. Installed it and it was under pressure for 3 weeks. The pipe burst in the roof. Not near the connex point, the damage cost was over 150,000. The owner and supplier assurances sought out the damages, but did not want to pay me out to replace the whole line with the copper tubes. The certificate could be shown from the manufacturer of the pipe.
See, out of that, well, what I understand from that is it's just another reason why the watermark was started. At the moment, plumbers are led to buy whatever, the best salesman win the day. If the salesman says, well, this is good, we buy it, we install it, you don't really know. And it's one of the reasons why the watermark was started, to at least give some better reassurance. So yes, the watermark, we do not test. We do not do the physical testing of the products. We rely on private test facilities like SABS and other international labs to do the testing and the verifications. But the best that the plumber can do is to make sure that the product is at least compliant to the standard, and at least on the, well, the watermark is then one option to verify that it at least does that, which is a very good starting point to prevent situations like that happening going forward. If you just listen to the salesman and he can't back up his product afterwards, obviously there's nothing we can do about it, but you can try and avoid it as best as possible from the start by making sure it's products that may be legally installed.
All right, perfect. I think we've got time for this last question here. Will the watermark be displayed on each product in the plumbing supply shops, as most staff members would not have access to the app?
Okay. Yes, that is part of the intention. If you look at the logo of the watermark, I can go back there. You will notice from the current. Okay, sorry, my computer doesn't get there. So the logo of the watermark is designed in such a way that it can be applied on products. It can be used, that circle with the 2 tick marks in it, can be put on the products. It's the choice of the manufacturer whether they want to do that or not. But products will most likely all of them be marked with that. It makes it easier for everybody to recognize that as well. So this can be used on the marketing, on the boxes, leaflets, engraved, stamped on the product itself as well. Good.
Right, perfect. Well, guys, we have. All right, it has gone 1:30, guys. That is the end of the session. And yet we do have one more question that I will go ahead and send through to you via email later today. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking the time out to go through the session. I do hope it was beneficial to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and end off the session now, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And please remember the survey on the way out. Bye-bye, guys.